Welcome to Creating a Project Plan, the first of 5 videos in the series Writing Graduate Research Papers, an original creation of the Academic Support and Access Center's Writing Lab at American University. My name is Jordan Grant. This series is designed to help students through the entire process of writing a graduate research paper. In this video, you will learn how to remake your assignment sheet for clarity, how to define your personal goals for the project, and how to create an initial schedule for your paper. I should also note here that throughout this video, I will be using the terms paper and project interchangeably. Step 1. Remake the assignment sheet for clarity. The first step in a graduate writing assignment is the same first step you should take with anything else in life. Read the instructions. The assignment instructions, or prompt as they are often called, should help you understand both what the assignment requires and what you will be graded on by your instructor. Unfortunately, not all prompts are created equal. In many courses, your instructions for the assignment will come in the form of a long, complicated paragraph. I've created an example of this kind of prompt based on the work I've done with students studying international relations. The details of the prompt don't really matter, but if you'd like to read through the paragraph anyway, go ahead and pause the video. We can continue when you're ready. This is also a good time for me to mention that a full transcript and PDF versions of this video are available on the Academic Support and Access Center's website. This prompt is full of useful information, but most of it is locked away in a rather unwieldy paragraph. That's why I recommend that, at the start of every paper, you rewrite the prompt so that it makes sense to you. If you spent some time rewriting this particular prompt, you would probably end up with something like this, a much simpler, bulleted guide for the assignment. In this example, I've broken down the assignment into goals, tasks, and requirements, and I've also added some of my own words in brackets to make the whole thing easier to read. Remaking your assignment sheet has many advantages, but perhaps most importantly, it will help you notice if the prompt has left out any key information, such as the due dates for various parts of your paper. That's the kind of information you don't want to be searching for at midnight halfway through the semester. So now that you know it's missing, you can contact your instructor right away. Step 2. Define your personal goals for the project. This second step is easy to miss, but after years of both being a graduate student and working with graduate students as a counselor, I think it's one of the most important steps you can take towards writing an outstanding paper. After you've rewritten the prompt, but before you do anything else for the paper, you should spend some time defining your personal goals for the project. To put this another way, you need to imagine what the best possible outcome for your paper would be. If your paper was incredibly successful, what would it accomplish? Or better said, what would it allow you to accomplish? Your answer to this question should be something beyond getting an A. Yes, you should always aim for good grades, but graduate school should never be an end in and of itself. Grad school is meant to prepare you for a vocation, a calling, or a career, and it's those things that should be on your mind when you start planning your paper. For example, if you'd like to become a professor one day, you may want to submit this paper to an academic journal in the hopes of getting it published. Or perhaps you're hoping to pursue a certain career, and this paper is your chance to master a new skill, a new language, or a new approach that you think you'll need as a professional. In the end, it's entirely up to you what the goals of the paper will be, but if you don't determine them at the start of your work and frequently remind yourself of them throughout the project, you might end up writing a paper that you just don't care much about, and that's a tragic thing. Life is short, and graduate school is expensive. So don't waste time on projects that aren't meaningful to you. Step 3. Create an initial schedule for the project. The last step in creating a project plan is perhaps the most obvious. It's time to create a schedule. If you saved your rewritten assignment prompt, you could put your schedule right next to it on the same document. In most cases, your schedule will have you following the same steps I outline in this series. Over the course of a semester, you will need to create a project plan, choose a topic, perform a literature review, develop an argument, write a rough draft, and revise and edit your draft. I recommend treating each one of these steps as its own sub-project, and if you have approximately 12 weeks to finish your paper, you can space them out in your calendar however you see fit. Usually, it's a good idea to allot most of your time to the last 2 steps of writing and revising your paper, since that process almost always takes longer than you expect. A complete schedule requires, at minimum, three pieces of information: deadlines, deliverables, and next action steps. Deadlines are when the project, or a specific part of it, will be due. It's when things must be done. Deliverables are the tasks or actions that will need to be completed by that deadline. They're what must be done. Since most people are not familiar with the final concept of next action steps, I'd like to spend a minute talking about them. I first became aware of next action steps while reading the book Getting Things Done by David Allen, which I highly recommend. I like to explain next action steps by telling a story. In my home, my wife and I keep a list of chores that need to be done in our kitchen on the refrigerator. For a while, one of the items on the list was this word: tires. I'm not sure who wrote tires on the list to begin with, but I do know that, once it was on the list, tires did not move. Months went by, and every time I walked through our kitchen, I saw that unfinished chore staring at me from the refrigerator. One weekend, I decided that I couldn't stand it anymore, so I sat down with a pen and pencil to figure out what needed to be done about tires. I bet you can guess what happened. It only took a few seconds for me to realize that tires was a project. That project was get new tires for the car. The major problem, the reason why the project was stalled, was that I hadn't figured out my next action, the next action that I needed to take in order to get the project moving. As it turned out, what I needed to do was call my brother, who's very into cars, and ask him where I should buy new tires. To put this formally, I had a project called Get New Tires for the Car, and I needed to pair it with the next action step, call brother to ask about tires. Next action steps are a deceptively simple concept, very easy to dismiss, but incredibly powerful when you put them into practice. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen students who are feeling lost or are struggling with procrastination when the root of their problem is that they haven't done the necessary project planning, defining next action steps to move their work forward. For example, what if I replaced Get New Tires for the Car with a more familiar project like complete research for the paper? I'm guessing that there's a next action step you need to take to move that project forward. Two examples would be schedule an appointment with a university librarian, or take notes on the articles I collected last week. Going this extra step, breaking the project down into subprojects, then assigning deadlines, deliverables, and next action steps, takes time, but not as much time as you might think. I found that for every 2 minutes of planning you do, you'll probably have an hour of actual work that you can get done. More importantly, because you planned, you'll know that you're doing an hour of essential work, the kind of work that needs to be done to move your project forward. I have two other pieces of advice for you as you go about creating an initial schedule. First, when you're planning your work for the project, keep in mind that consistency always trumps brilliance. Studies show that the most productive writers are not the most talented people, but the people who block out time every day to work on their projects. That may sound like a tall order, but let me assure you, even a short period of time every day, 30 minutes, can help you finish your paper in a timely manner. Now you may be wondering why this is the case. Writing a research paper at the graduate level has very high startup costs. Every time you sit down to write, you have to remind yourself of what you were doing before and get yourself up to speed in order to continue working. If you return to the paper every day, even for a short time, you can avoid wasting that time revisiting your notes. My final piece of advice is this. Set a weekly reminder in your calendar to revisit and revise your project plan. Your plan is an enormously useful tool. It tells you what subprojects need to be completed and what next actions will carry your work forward. However, if you don't update that plan every week, you'll start to trust it less and less. Eventually, you may avoid it entirely. So do yourself a favor and, for however long you're working on your research paper, spend a short time each week updating the plan. It's a worthwhile investment of your time. With a plan in place, you'll be ready to take the next step, choosing a topic for your paper. Thank you for watching Creating a Project Plan, the first video in the series Writing Graduate Research Papers. If you found the video helpful, be sure to check out our other videos, which are available through the Academic Support and Access Center's website. This video is protected by a Creative Commons license.